the energy of that sharing is what comes back to you.
Your real job in life is to figure out what it is you are called to do.
You are sleepwalking through your life. And I have seen this so many times on the show. You have to keep your own self full. That's your job. Every now and then, I would get a candy bar. And I remember Snickers was really great. And if you could get a Payday or a Three Musketeers, that was even more special. And I remember holding on to my candy bar for days until my cousins would come by so that I could share it with my cousins. Because I always thought I wanted somebody else to have the experience. It wasn't as good if I could just eat it myself. It was always better if I could say, "Isn't that good?" And it's true for me my whole life. I'm sure you've noticed this yourself. If you're watching a beautiful sunset, you want somebody else to see it.
Oh my God, that is gorgeous.
If you are reading a wonderful book, you want somebody else to read it. You're watching a great movie, you want somebody else to see it. So that is just my natural nature. So the idea of sharing the joy, sharing whatever you have that is of goodness for yourself, it just comes natural to me. What I have learned is that when you do that, the energy of that sharing is what comes back to you. And that truly is the reason why I have so much joy in my own life, is because I don't mind giving it away.
What is the soul?
The soul is what you are. The soul is not a mythical entity. The soul is a powerful, purposeful essence. It is at the very center of who you are. But do not think that you are the entirety of your soul. A soul is enormous. Your soul existed before you were born, and your soul will exist after you die. You, the Oprah that I am speaking to, I, the Gary that is speaking to you, are personalities. I have a certain psychological structure. I have lessons to learn in my life. I have emotions. I have intuition and cognition. I have all of those things. But all of those things will die. But my soul will not, and neither will yours.
Does my soul know me?
Yes. Yes. Look at it this way. Every fleet of ships that sails has a mothership. One ship that knows where all of them are going and sets the direction for all of those ships to sail. This doesn't mean that the mothership determines what happens on each of the other ships in the fleet. Life on one of the ships might be mostly pleasant. On yet another ship, it might be mostly unpleasant. Now imagine the mothership is the biggest ship you can imagine. It's a city afloat, magnificent. And now imagine that the rest of the boats, the ships, are not really ships, but little boats. The mothership is your soul, and you are one of the little boats. The mothership knows why.
That's a very nice analogy, really.
The mothership knows why you are in the water. You may not know all of the time. The mothership knows why you encounter storms. Your job, while you have the awesome privilege of being a little boat, is to learn how to sail in the same direction as your mothership. Because you can choose and create anything you want. You can sail in the opposite direction if you want. That is a sure way to find rough water. But as you sail in the direction that your mothership wants to sail, your life fills with meaning and purpose and love. You are excited about being alive. You are excited about the people you are with and what you are doing.
Because you're following the mothership.
That's right. Meaning is your inner compass that always aligns itself with the direction that your mothership wants to go.
Okay, meaning.
Meaning, your inner sense of meaning and purpose.
Is, say that again.
Meaning is your inner compass.
Got it. Got that much.
And as you follow your inner sense of meaning, you are sailing in the same direction that your mothership wants you to sail.
When you think you don't have anything, I always say go back to your breath. And what I know is that if you just start with your breath and start being grateful for that, it's thinking about what you have versus what you don't have, and focusing on the one thing that you are grateful for increases the energy of gratitude and rises just a little bit the joy inside yourself, just a little bit. If you can just get to one good feeling helps build on another good feeling and another good feeling. Just the idea of saying, I am grateful for my breath. I am grateful that I was able to get up and walk on both legs this morning. And really feel that, really feel that. I am grateful that I'm able to use my hands. I think about Monica George every time I go to reach for something. Monica George, who was the mother who was on our show, who'd gone into the hospital to have her second child and contracted a disease and had to have both her arms and both her legs cut off. She said, get me out of here so I can get home and take care of my babies.
We salute you for the light that you bring.
Starting with what you have and what you can do versus what you can't, focusing on the $3 in your wallet will bring you $5 sooner than focusing on the $50 you don't have. So if you allow yourself to get to the space of a good feeling, I don't care what that good feeling is, a good feeling increases more good feeling. In the same way that being in a bad situation and focusing on the bad situation continues to make you feel worse. First thing I do when I get up in the morning is read some kind of spiritual material. I read some kind of spiritual enlightenment. So I start my day with something that is going to put me in a positive frame of mind so that I begin attracting to me positive energy. So what this means that you've watched this right now, it means you've opened up just a little channel of energy to allow some joy to rise in yourself.
Now, you know the most exciting chapter to me in the Seed of the Soul?
What's that?
It is the principle by which I rule my company and the principle by which I rule every action in my life. And that is intention!
Yes, yes.
Intention.
Yes. That's at the heart of it. That's at the heart of creating authentic power.
Yes.
Intention.
To the point where, and now people make jokes about it. I mean, everybody, I've said it so often. You know, when I first learned about intention from you, and this is what everybody needs to know who's on the path of spiritually opening yourself up, awakening, is that it's difficult, it's challenging when you say, I want to grow, I want to be better than I have known myself to be. So I used to have the disease to please, and intention cured me. So shortly after I had read the chapter on intention, I got a call from a very famous celebrity who was asking me to do something for them and to be a part of a benefit. And I really didn't want to do it. But I thought, well, if I don't do it, this person is going to think I'm not a nice person. This person is going to think I'm a selfish person. This person is going to think, well, why wouldn't you do it for me? I was thinking if I don't do it, then the person is going to never want to do anything for me if I ever call on them again. And I sat with that and realized not one single response to being asked had anything to do with, do I really want to give myself my time and attention? I realized in that moment that my disease to please had always been about wanting people to think I was a certain way. So I said no. The world did not fall apart. The person didn't hate me afterwards. Because of that, I got the courage to say no again and again and again. And so now I only do what I intend to do. So I am here because I really want to be here. And that's when you can give of yourself fully.
Yes.
Yes. Okay, so this is how powerful what you wrote did for me and also my business. When I started to understand the principle of intention, I then changed the way I operated all of my businesses. And I said to the producers, do not bring me a show idea. Do not even come to me with the idea unless you know what your intention is that you want to serve. How do we wish to serve our viewers? How do we serve the public? So when people would bring ideas then, they would have to also list, and my intention is, and my intention is. Intention is one with cause and effect. You cannot participate in the cause without the effect, and the intention will ultimately determine the outcome of the effect.
Exactly. The intention is the cause.
Is the cause.
The intention is the cause. An intention.
And that you can't separate them. You cannot separate them.
No,
They're
you can't.
inseparable. They're one.
And if you don't know what the intention is, it still creates the effect, and you still encounter it. That's the thing. I want to suggest that everyone watching us consider, I want to say this directly to someone.
Yes.
Wherever you are.
That camera right there. That one? Yep. That camera, yes.
I suggest that you entertain considering the possibility that you are a powerful and creative, compassionate, and loving spirit. Now that may seem a lot, but try that on for size. And if you find that it doesn't fit, if you find that there's a distance between who you are, you think you are, and what you say and what you do and the way that you behave, and a powerful and creative, compassionate, and loving spirit, then also consider that that distance is the distance that you have to travel. That is your spiritual path. That's your curriculum in the Earth School. Thank you. I love saying that directly.
That is fantastic.
To people.
In this world, there are a lot of things that are beyond our control. But what you do have control over is how you react to whatever happens in your life. What I now know is that we all become exactly what you believe. So if you believe that you can do all things because you have been endowed by a power from on high, given to you by the grace of God, if you believe that, you walk into the world understanding that whatever problems you may encounter, you still have God to lean on. As I grew, my perception and understanding of what God means grew with me. I expanded my view of what it means to be a citizen of the universe, to be a part of the energy field that is omnipotent, omniscient, all-knowing, and all-present in all things. And so my confidence comes from knowing that there is something greater than myself, that I am a part of and is also a part of me. I call that God, but I do nothing without that understanding. How I think one masters one's life is to understand that you are co-creating that life with the ultimate creator. Not understanding that puts you at your own pitiful, meager little will. And everything is left up to you. And you can't do it. You cannot survive in this world by yourself, just believing in yourself. You're not big enough to do it. I'm not big enough to do it. Nobody's big enough to do it. You have to understand that your very presence here as a human being on earth came from something greater than you. And not just your parents who wanted to have a child. The fact that that egg was hit by that particular little sperm in that particular moment, and you were created. Wow. How amazing is that? Of all the different choices that had to happen in order for you to be here now. What a celebration that is. So when you recognize the mystery of that creation, all the circumstances that had to configure and reconfigure themselves, all the questions that we don't have answers to, you have to know this: the fact that I'm here matters. And the fact that you're there matters. This is no accident. None of us are. When you do well, people notice. When you do your best, people notice. And so wherever you are, always do your best
and doing your best puts you at the next level. Nothing about my life is lucky. Nothing. A lot of grace, a lot of blessings, a lot of divine order, but I don't believe in luck. For me, luck is preparation, meeting the moment of opportunity. There is no luck without you being prepared to handle that moment of opportunity. And so what I would say for myself is that because of my hand in a hand and a force greater than my own, I have been prepared in ways that I didn't even know I was being prepared for. And the truth is, for me and for every person, every single thing that has ever happened in your life is preparing you for the moment that is to come. A lot of people don't know their purpose. And if you don't know your purpose, your immediate goal is to figure that out, because otherwise you're just wandering around here. So the moment you can figure out what it is you're supposed to be doing, the sooner you are able to get about the business of doing that. The universe speaks to us always, first, in whispers. And a whisper usually in your life feels like, that's odd. Or, that doesn't make any sense. Or, is that right? It just really feels like that. It's that kind of subtle. And if you don't pay attention to the whisper, it gets louder and louder and louder. And I say, it's like getting thumped upside the head. You don't pay attention to that. It's like getting a brick upside your head. You don't pay attention to that, the brick wall falls down. Life is about growth and change. When you are no longer doing that, that is your whisper. That is your whisper that I am supposed to do something else. I am interested in seeing what the rest of the world has to offer me. Anybody pretending to be anything other than who you really are, you will never, ever reach your personal potential. You cannot do it. I have known for a very long time that I am a blessed person, and that to whom much is given, much is also required. That you can't have all of this and not use it for something that is for the greater good. Your intention rules your life and determines the outcome. Every time it would happen, I would say to my team, well, it doesn't matter, because every season somebody else was coming out. One talk show, two talk shows, three talk shows. There have been over 100 talk shows since we started. But every time I would feel like, all right, got to step up our game, got to step up our game. The way you step up your game is not to worry about the other guy in any situation, because you can't control the other guy. You cannot control the other guy. You only have control over yourself. So it's like running a race. The energy that it takes to look back and see where the other guys are takes energy away from you. And if they're too close, it scares you. So that's what I would say to my team all the time. Don't waste your time in the race looking back to see where the other guy is or what the other guy is doing. It's not about the other guy. It's about what can you do. You just need to run that race as hard as you can. You need to give it everything you've got all the time for yourself. For yourself. What I know is you got to take responsibility for the space you hold here. And understand that the third law of motion, which says for every action, there's an equal and opposite reaction, that is my religion. That is the fundamental construct of my religion. And by that, I mean, I know that every thought that I think, every thought that I have that moves into action is going to create an opposite and equal reaction. So everything that I put out into the world is going to come back. It's the golden rule on steroids. The golden rule on steroids. It's true that as you do unto others, they will do unto you. It's already done. There's an energy field, there's an energy flow that I strongly feel in my own life. And I know lots of other people who do. You're either in flow
or out of it. And if you're in flow, it's like this. It's like this. All the time. It's like this. It's like flowing with the stream. And the flow is in direct proportion to the center of yourself, where God abides, where universal energy abides, where the divine within you abides. How far you are from the center, from the divineness of yourself, from your connection to source energy, that which created you, is how out of sync you are with your life, regardless of what you call it. When you can align with that, nobody can touch you. Gary Zukov calls that authentic power. In his book, Seed of the Soul, he says, when your personality comes to serve the energy of your soul, that is authentic power. And that's the only real power there is, because you're going to lose everything else. I don't care how beautiful you are. One day, your breasts are going to sag and your eyes are going to bag and you're not going to be as beautiful. And it doesn't matter how much Botox and how many times you get yourself pulled up and how many hairdos and how many makeovers or what you do, you know, that doesn't last. It's just like the most beautiful flowering tree. Everything passes in its time. It doesn't matter how much money you have, how much power you have, how high you sit on the Forbes list, how many times you make the most influential lists. All of that changes. All of that changes. But what is real, what is lasting, is who you are and what you were meant to bring. What is the gift you were meant to give? And nobody can take that away from you. This is gonna be so good. Of all the lessons I've learned in my entire life, this may be at the very, very, very top of the list. I first had this lesson probably, it was in my 20s. It was in my 20s when I first started to learn this lesson. And over time, I got it. And now I really got it. I was visiting Maya Angelou and having a conversation with her about life and so many other things. And we were in the midst of a book club selection, actually, her book, Heart of a Woman. And we ended the evening in our pajamas having this little discussion. So this is just very brief. Take a look at this. One of my favorite life lessons.
The other most important lesson, well, it's hard for me to number them, but let's say one of the most important lessons I ever learned from you, and I still am, you know, I think I know the lesson, and then I'll walk into a situation and think that's that same lesson, and that is when people show you who they are, believe them.
Yes, absolutely. A person says to you, I'm selfish, or I'm mean, or I am unkind.
Or I'm crazy.
Or believe them. They know themselves much better than you do. Mm-hmm. But no, more often than not, those of us who don't trust life say, don't say a thing like that. You're not really crazy. You're not really unkind. You're not really mean. And as soon as you say that, the person
let you know.
And shows you, I told you. Mm-hmm. I told you I was unkind. So now why are you angry?
When she first told me this story, I was talking about some bad relationship or relationship gone bad because of my own choices. And she was saying to me, why are you blaming the other person? He showed you who he was. He told you who he was. And when you look back on bad relationships, like for myself, sitting in a window, waiting on him to show up, not even answering the phone. This is before we had cell phones. Not even getting on the phone because I was afraid if it was busy for 1 second, then he would call and I would miss the call. Not taking out the garbage on the weekends because I might be out taking the garbage out in the moment that he calls. Not running the bath water because He might call while I'm running the bathwater, and I might miss the phone, and waiting and waiting and waiting and waiting. When you look at that process of waiting on somebody who has told you they were going to do something and told you they were going to be there for you, and they were not, they are showing you in that moment exactly who they are. That means that's somebody who cannot be trusted. So why would you the next time trust that person? So Maya Angelou said to me when I was telling her one of these stories about I was waiting and I couldn't believe it and he didn't call me and I don't know what happened. She was saying, my dear, in her Maya voice, my dear, when people show you who they are, why don't you believe them? Why must you be shown 29 times before you can see who they really are? Why can't you get it the first time? So the adjunct to that is when people show you who they are, believe them the first time. Don't wait for the 29th time.
Your real job in life is to figure out what it is you are called to do. And you use a job until you can figure out what the calling is. Because a job is necessary to survive, and you live in a world where so in my early days, I had a job. I had a job until I could figure out what it was really, what that gave my life its purpose and meaning. And I'd gotten demoted in my job in Baltimore as an anchor woman because as they hired me and then they decided I was the wrong color and I was the wrong size and I was the wrong, you know, I had lots of problems and they were trying to take me off the air. And I was making $22,000 a year. I thought I was in heaven because I was making my age. And my dream at the time was, Gail and I used to say, can you imagine if you're 40 and you're making 40,000? Ooh, that'd be it. So that was as big as my dream was, just to make my age. And then I did this, they put me on a talk show one morning because they didn't know what to do with me. And I was interviewing the Carvel Ice Cream Man. It was a local talk show. And Benny from, Benny, who was Mrs. Chancellor's butler or something on All My Children. Anyway, a soap opera star who wasn't the lead star. Remember Benny? Yeah. Benny and the Carvel Ice Cream Man. That's how I cut my teeth. And I finished that show. So it's not about the stars themselves or whoever the guests were. But I felt like this is what I'm supposed to do. All these years I've been misplaced in news because I couldn't relate to news. I was a news reporter and I'd be out on the stories and I'd be crying with the people. And I felt that I was exploiting the people with news. I couldn't, you know, put a microphone in people's face when they were going through tragedies and stuff. I just was so emotional. I was always getting little notes from my boss about, cut that out, you need to stop. So, but the moment I did that talk show, I felt like, oh, I can be myself. And that was August 14th, 1978. And that was the beginning of fulfilling the calling. And so since that time, August 14th, 1978, I've never had a problem with energy. Now, when I was working in news, I used to be exhausted all the time. Just exhausted all the time because I hated it. And the reason I didn't quit is because I'm not a quitter, number one. And because my father was like, better not quit that job. You're making $22,000 a year. Who's gonna pay a black woman $22,000 a year? You're never gonna make that kind of money again. You better save half of it. So I was reluctant to quit and think about doing something else because I thought, okay, everybody wants to be an anchor woman. At the time, that was like supposedly a big deal, being an anchor woman. So I thought, okay, I'll just stay with this until I can figure out what is the best thing to do. And interestingly enough, I was applying for what I wanted to do. I felt like I needed to be able to talk. And at the time, the only thing that was available was Good Morning America or the Today Show. So I called up this agent and I asked if he would accept my tape because I wanted to be like a substitute for Bryant Gumbel. And he said to me, there was only gonna be one Bryant Gumbel. And so there wasn't gonna be another one, that they weren't gonna another black person on that show. He said that to me. And interestingly enough, he called me last week because somebody else mentioned his name to say he never said it, but he did say it. And I said to him, you know what? If you're ever told that, you never forget it. If somebody ever says to you, if you're ever rejected in that way, you never, ever, ever forget it. I said, but it's okay. I did okay, you did okay. It's all right. It's all right. But the answer to your question is, if you can find what is your passion, if you find what you love, you never get tired. Or if you do get tired, you're fueled by the energy of your work. So I know that I'm doing exactly what I'm supposed to be doing at this time. I also know that what this show can do in terms of being a voice in changing the world, it's just the beginning of what this show can do. It's fun to do things like this, but, and it's necessary to do things like this in order to be able to do the bigger, grander things, to change what happens to the face of children in Africa, for example, or what happens to education with kids in this country. So I believe that, that what has happened to me is really the beginning of the greater passion to come. But if you find out what you're supposed to do, and you know what you're supposed to do by how it feels. You know, people wait on the voice of God to be the Moses in the burning bush. I think that was only Bible talk, you know, because he doesn't come to burning bushes for people. He comes through your heart. He speaks through your heart, through your feelings. And so you know if you're doing the right thing, if it feels like it's right to you. And when you hit the thing that feels right, when you know it's the right thing, you know it's right because it gives you your juice. And you know it's right because you would do it for nothing. You would do it for nothing and find a way to be able just to do it in order to be able to continue. That's how you know you're doing what you're supposed to be doing, right? So I hope that for everybody. I wish that for everybody. Anybody else got something? Yes, ma'am. Mm-hmm.
I wanted to ask you, was it one point in your life when you were developing your career, was it a point that you questioned, was your passion?
No, there wasn't for me, because it was just what I have that I believe is really my gift is the ability to surrender to a will that is greater than myself. What I have been able to do is to listen to the inner voice of your life, to listen to that calling. And sometimes you might have something that's a drive in your head that's very, very strong. That's not the true calling. So you have to be able to honor that, because if you're pressing towards something and not getting there, it means you need to stand back and listen to what the real voice is. That's what I've found.
I'm really touched by the fact that you say that's your gift, to be able to surrender to a will greater than you. I don't think I've ever heard anybody say that as a gift. When you come up against that questioning, instead of trying to figure it out in your head, pray, surrender,
pray.
Totally surrender.
Yeah.
And
pray whether you believe in praying or not. Okay. If you don't believe in praying, you can say, I'm not praying, I'm just here.
It still works, even if you don't believe in it.
Because it still works.
Yes.
The power that is greater than yourself still respond to that. And if you can align yourself with what is the greater will and stop trying to tell it what it is supposed to be, but align yourself, surrender yourself to what is that. And you got to get quiet enough to do it, don't you, Cheryl? Because most people have just been, you get up, you go to school, you go to college, you major in the thing, you know, to do the thing, and then get the job, and you've never asked, what is your will for me?
And I think it
will be shown to you.
If you open up to
If you open up to it. There is nothing happening out of order with your life because you are calling it all in. And as soon as you realize that and start paying more attention, you get the clues. It's all there. Yes, ma'am.
My biggest challenge is that I'm afraid that I don't see the clues or recognize the clues. And what can I do about that?
You're waiting. It's not Moses in the burning bush.
Right.
You know, it's not, you know, the Mormon Tabernacle Choir is not going to appear. There's not going to be something. There are clues all around you. God uses people. He uses the universe, if you like to use the word God, uses every single encounter and experience. Like for everybody sitting in this room right now, you are here at this show and not the show about kitchens for a reason. That's right. You know, because of whatever you needed to hear or needed to experience or needed to think about. It's all in divine order if you get that. You know, in all of the years of doing the Oprah show, there were many days that I sat in my chair across from 1 or 2 or 5 or 6 or 7 people, and I would be so frustrated because I just wanted to shake people sometimes and say, why didn't you pay attention to your life? I said on the show probably
The producers tell me that they counted 33 times, but I know I thought it at least 1,000 times. I would say listening to your life as it whispers to you first, so that it does not have to knock you upside the head with a brick or come crashing down on you as a brick wall, is one of the greatest principles of life, because there are many things that happen in life that are beyond our control. Natural disasters, death, unexplained events. But there are also many, many, many things in life which we can control and become out of control because you're just not paying attention. You are sleepwalking through your life. And I have seen this so many times on the show. I wanted to take the guests and go, would you just pay attention? So this is what I've learned and how I've explained it to myself. Life whispers to you all the time. Your life is speaking to you all around, from the time you wake up in the morning, and every single experience that's coming into your personal space, into your physical space. All of those experiences are speaking to you. They're telling you something about your life and about your circumstances. It whispers, and if you don't get the whisper gets louder. If you don't get the whisper when it gets louder, it gets, I call it like a little pebble, like a little thump upside your head. When I was a kid, if I was doing something my grandmother didn't like, she'd just turn around and thump me. She wouldn't even look at me. She'd just give me a thump, and I'd know that's my cue to stop it, or we're gonna get worse. The whisper is the message, the pebble or the thump upside the head. Usually it's gone into a problem. You don't pay attention to the problem becomes a brick upside your head. The brick upside your head is a crisis. You don't pay attention to the brick upside your head, the crisis turns into a disaster, and the whole house brick wall comes falling down. I say to my girls all of the time that your real work is to figure out where your power base is and to work on the alignment of your personality, your gifts that you have to give, with the real reason why you're here. That's the number one thing you have to do, is to work on yourself and to fill yourself up and keep your cup full. Keep yourself full. Now, I used to be afraid of that. I used to be afraid, particularly from people who say, oh, she's so full of herself. She's so full of herself. And now I embrace it. I consider it a compliment that I am full of myself. Because only when you're full, I'm overflowing, my cup runneth over. I have so much to offer and so much to give. And I am not afraid of honoring myself. You know, it's miraculous when you think about it. First of all, for me, my father and mother never married. They had sex one time underneath an oak tree because she was wearing a poodle skirt in 1953. And my dad, to this day, says, I want to know what's under that skirt. That's what I want to know. He wanted to know what was under the skirt. They didn't really have a relationship. She wanted one, but you know, he went under the skirt and then that was it. And one time under the oak tree, bam, Renaissance.
Woman is born. It happened there.
That's why I know my life is bigger than that. My life has to be bigger, as yours is, bigger than a poodle skirt. It's much bigger. The design, the reason why I'm here is much bigger than, oh, I think I want to see what's under there. So the ability to take care of that, to honor yourself and that which is greater than yourself, that which was the reason for your being here. There's no selflessness in that, because only through that do you have the ability to offer yourself, your whole self, your full expression of who you are, to the rest of the world.